There is new reporting from MS Now that top Trump administration officials have been, quote, frustrated with Kash Patel, and that they summoned him to the White House yesterday, forcing the embattled FBI director to abruptly cancel his planned flight to see his girlfriend in Chicago. According to one source, Patel canceled the trip while on the tarmac at Andrews and was summoned to the White House immediately, adding that it was in apparent panic. As MS Now reports, the precise reasons that Patel's political bosses demanded he cancel his trip and report to the West Wing are unclear, but several people said top Trump deputies were disturbed by a range of actions by Patel. But when asked to clarify why Patel was at the White House yesterday, a White House official told MS Now, quote, "The idea that he was summoned to the White House due to frustration is totally inaccurate. He was here for unrelated meetings." Maria Teresa Kumar and Christy Greenberg are back with us. And I just want to say, even though I said MS Now is reporting, it's MS Now's Jackie Alamany's reporting who did this. So Jackie, tell us more about this on the tarmac at Andrews.
Very good, interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, and look, this is part of a pattern with Patel, really since he came into the administration, of going on some of these boondoggles, I think is the most accurate way to describe it, and receiving some sort of light feedback, some reprimanding, right, exactly, some slap on the wrist, but ultimately being able to stay in his job because at the end of the day, he is acting on the president's main priority, the most animating force of this administration, which is investigating and relitigating the 2020 election and these misguided, inaccurate claims that there was election fraud and that Donald Trump actually did not lose the 2020 election. That being said, it seems like Patel is butting up against some more pushback here, that people are sort of tired of his antics, especially in the wake of our colleague Ken Delanian's incredible reporting earlier this week that even Republicans are now asking for some more detailed accounting of Patel's movements, his actions, and whether or not he's paying out of pocket to reimburse the American public for these boondoggles that he is spending on taxpayer funds. But, Chrissy, one of the things I was also told is that, by one source, is that, look, Patel is not being fired right now. He isn't going anywhere right now. And that could potentially change after Todd Blanche's confirmation. How problematic would it be to fire Patel before that happens next week?
Well, I mean, his confirmation hearing, Todd Blanche's hearing, is on Wednesday and Thursday. So yeah, that would then steal the headlines. I can see why they would maybe want to wait. But that said, this is a good thing, because when you're for Todd Blanche at least, because you're talking about Patel, who frankly is acting like a buffoon. Right. I mean, the headlines...
By the way, I'm not sure that Todd Blanche is happy with Patel.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Todd Blanche, I worked with Todd Blanche, and he is a prosecutor. He actually knows how to do the job. I don't agree with how he has done the job, but he knows how to do the job.
Right.
Kash Patel has no idea what he's doing. He's too busy on his, jet skis, on his helicopter tours. He's in his BMW fleet, which is a terrible look. I mean, he seems like he's on a constant vacation, and he doesn't seem like he's taking anything seriously. And so, yeah, I'm sure if you're Todd Blanche, you're trying to then draw a contrast. Well, look, I'm serious. Granted, he's serious about doing a bad job and doing things to do the Trump's bidding, but they're all kind of doing that. But yeah, so Patel, I think, kind of helps him in that regard. I can't see them firing him before Wednesday.